What's up, Taiwan? I'm Erika Liu with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan's general election is just weeks away, and all this week on TaiwanPlus News, we'll be looking at what voters here care about in our election series, The Real Issues. Taiwan's relations with China have long dominated the country's politics, but with one of the lowest wage rates in the world and soaring housing prices, the pressure's on for presidential candidates to tackle the rising cost of living. Joyce Zeng reports.
Fresh college grad Chi is making a stir-fry with shredded ginger, her own cost-cutting version of a traditional pork dish. She and her boyfriend are scraping by to rent an apartment in eastern Taiwan and start their adult lives together, a future that Chi finds difficult to be hopeful about.
我会很害怕，我就算努力了，然后也没有一个好的成就或是赚大钱，所以如果我就宣告我躺下来，就不是我的问题。
Many young people across Taiwan share Chi-Chi's concerns, as the country has some of the lowest wage levels among developed countries. The latest stats show people in Taiwan make an average of $1,880 a month, but with inflation factored in, it's more like $1,700. That's as the average mortgage rate has jumped almost 50% in the last decade, a huge gap compared to what people make. But this could change. Taiwan's about to elect a new head of state as President Tsai Ing-wen completes her maximum 2 four-year terms. With few diplomatic allies due to pressure from Beijing, which has threatened to take self-rule Taiwan by force, managing geopolitics has been a focal point of Tsai's 8 years in office, something her Democratic Progressive Party, or DPP, says has meant continued peace in the Taiwan Strait. But some analysts say the DPP may have fallen short of some voters' expectations on the home front.
People may be really fed up with the geopolitics, which is one of the major platforms that DPP has been running on in the last decade or so. People really just care about their needs at home.
The main opposition party has been quick to take aim at the DPP's record on cost of living issues in the past 8 years. The Kuomintang, or KMT candidate, New Taipei Mayor Ho Yo-ii, says if elected, he'd boost the country's young people in these 5 areas: civic life, childcare, wages, tuition fees, and housing.
所以我拿出555方案，1500万的额度可以全额贷，利息搁少给你补贴，5年后搁给你包半麻。
Voters also have a third choice this election in what's long been a two-party race between the KMT and DPP. In his former role as Taipei mayor, the Taiwan People's Party's presidential pick Ko Wen-je worked to tackle property hoarding by taxing homeowners who held onto empty residences instead of renting them out. He's vying to apply the strategy nationwide.
要解决居住正义的问题啊，也要大力的盖社会住宅。 这个税制一定要改革，税制不改只是让更多的这种建商去炒房而已。
Up against these two is incumbent Vice President and DPP presidential hopeful Lai Ching-te. He and his running mate, former envoy to the U.S., Bi Kim-hsiao, will have to convince the public to give their party another shot at tackling the cost of living.
跟年轻的朋友说一些话。我知道你们可能觉得民进党不够好。 我们觉得应该要扩大政府的投资，强化各种公共服务，减轻一般民众在托育、教育、照顾和居住的负担。
All 3 parties are trying to give hope to young people like Chi and help them feel like their goals can be reached, because it may be those young voters who decide which of these candidates gets to have their dream come true when Taiwan goes to the polls on Election Day. Andy Xue and Joyce Zhen for TaiwanPlus.
A local NGO plans to subsidize university students so they can travel home to vote in January's national election.
在这所有的路线里面，不管你选择哪一个路线，不管你的起讫地点是哪一个不同的站点，都是最低金额113。
Taiwan has no absentee voting, which means every voter has to go where their household is registered to cast their ballot. Under the NGO's plan, students from 10 universities will be able to take train journeys on designated routes for just 113 Taiwan dollars, or just over $3.5 US. It also applies to ferries and flights to outlying islands. The number 113 was chosen as the election takes place on January 13th. The NGO has so far raised over $20,000 US, more than its original goal. That will help some 800 students benefit from the scheme. A drone developed and built in Taiwan has broken a new flight record by staying in the air for more than 20 hours. That means the medium-altitude drone can monitor the Taiwan Strait for nearly a full day at a time. The drone, called the Ten Yun, was developed by Taiwan's Zhongshan Institute of Science and Technology for surveillance and strike missions.
台湾的不缺武器哦，但是我们缺乏一些征收的器材哦。那其实呢要广泛的把这种无人机哦用在长时间的我们叫对空监视或对海监视。那其实说真的，我们只要有2台这种所谓的大型的无人机哦，在南北这个两边的区域哦，其实就可以24小时的巡逻。
One of Taipei's main tourist attractions, the National Palace Museum, is marking the holiday period with some very special guests. Our reporter Sandy Chi went to have a look.
An emperor and a Ming Dynasty soldier. Not something you see every day. But for one night only, there's special guests at a museum in Taipei. It's the National Palace Museum's Night of Revelry costume party. And visitors have pulled out all the stops.
我穿的是道袍，对，那这个道袍跟我们做法事的那个道袍不一样，它是那个明代，就是算相当于我们现在男生西装的这个意思。
It's the 3rd year this event has been held, and over 3,000 visitors have dressed up in traditional garb to tour the museum.
故宫其实它就是一个中华文化的一个宝库。那当我们呢故宫要展示的时候呢，我们当然很希望就是有民间的一个参与。那尤其呢，参访者他能穿着古代的衣服来参访古代的用品、古代的器物呢，然后伴随着古代的音乐，观赏古代的那一些画。 然后站在那里呢，形成一个非常好的一个构图。
I think it's amazing because it's a National Palace Museum, so we're surrounded by art, by history, and a lot of people are wearing different traditional dresses, and it's amazing to see.
有一点觉得很不切实际，但是我又会觉得很神奇，因为这边就让我有点穿梭在现代跟古代的感觉。
This year's event is inspired by the Ming Dynasty painting, Spring Dawn in the Han Palace, which features court music performances, officials, civil servants, and concubines. It was painted by artist Qiu Ying in the 16th century.
Besides admiring ancient artifacts, taking photos, and enjoying a variety of shows, artists here have added a final touch to the event, sketching portraits of visitors for them to take home as souvenirs.
They are art students from a prestigious art school in Taipei, and they each sketched 16 visitors. Quite a challenge considering the time limit.
超可爱，超漂亮的，你看，比本人还可爱。
那请问花多少时间画出来的？
好像8分钟嘛，超厉害的，马上现场。
The National Palace Museum has long been one of Taipei's main tourist attractions, but it's been drawing even more visitors since the pandemic. And events like these show just how much enthusiasm there still is for ancient art and culture. Patrick Chen and Sandy Chi for TaiwanPlus.
The Alishan Forest Railway is celebrating its 111th anniversary with some upgraded train cars. The refurbished cars are themed around the collared bush robin, a bird endemic to Taiwan's mountains. They feature better windows, family and group cars, and new wireless emergency communication systems. Those systems will be rolled out on Taiwan's other forest railway lines next year. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Before we go, here's some crowds of people celebrating Christmas Day at Bondi Beach in Sydney, Australia. I'm Erika Liu. Take care and see you next time.